Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome to another edition of Oh Man, That's Awful, coming to you from the luxurious studios of Radio Titans in Los Angeles. As always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Carl Kozlowski, and with me is...
your other co-host, Kevin Corcoran.
And our sound wizard...
Dr. David Robinson.
And today, I'm very excited to be bringing... every week we bring you people's funny, awful stories about something that they overcame in life, but they're talking about some of the terrible things that happened along the way, leading up to their much better lives now. So today, we're excited to be bringing one of the world's leading activists against Scientology. She was a member of that cult for over 30 years and managed to escape and is now very active in the fight to raise awareness and bring it down. Ladies and gentlemen, Tory Christman. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And Tory, you and I go way back. I'm a reporter with the Pasadena Weekly, among other places, and I spoke with you around the time of Tom Cruise's bizarre public meltdown in 2005, where he's jumping on couches.
You remember that, don't you?
Who could forget? And and I was just laughing every day, like, because I'm a gossip hound, and my boss finally said, all right. If you're going to laugh about this every day, why don't you do us all a favor and tell people what the hell this is about? And so I dove down the rabbit hole and wound up doing a giant story, and somehow we met. And so,
wait, can I just for clarification? You ended up doing a hard-hitting expose of Scientology just so your boss could shut you up.
Basically, but along the way, thank you for having me clarify. I did a follow-up 3-part series of a side organization at the front of theirs called The Way to Happiness. And I'm proud to say I cost them $1 million and basically had to hide under my desk for a couple of days, literally at my job. But we'll either get to that or not later. But
it's anyway, like $500,000 a day to have you under the desk.
I got them
cheaper
good.
To keep you on the upside, I think.
Yeah,
well, that's how that changed the course of my career. I was a serious investigative reporter, and then when they happened along, and my boss goes, you need to stop getting into trouble like this. I'd exposed Lyndon LaRouche and other weird people too. So anyway, Tory, what about you? How did you get into Scientology, and what prompted? Let's just get into that. How did you get into it? Where'd you grow up?
Okay, I got into it. I was in college, and I've talked to academics who studied cults, and Scientology is definitely a cult. It's not really a religion as people think of religion. No. And as a cult, academics have told me people don't join cults, cults find you. And that's exactly what happened. Some kids from high school brought me a Dianetics book, and I read 3 chapters of it, had an argument with my dad, decided, all right, that's it. I'm sick of school anyway, and I'm going to go do Scientology, be an auditor. And he said, it's our morals or no school. So I pulled down my shade. I said, your morals or no school, screw you. And I hitchhiked from Chicago in 1969 to Los Angeles. True story. And became a Scientologist.
Well, okay, so I've looked at Dianetics in my research a couple times. That book is almost impossible to make heads or tails of. How does it suck anybody
Absolutely.
in? It's like
I used
weird
to put
jargon.
on Dianetic seminars, and it's a crazy book. I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying I only read 3 chapters, and those 3 chapters hit home for me. I believed it. I thought it was true. It took me 30 years to find out it not only isn't true, it's just a giant fraud. That's all it is. It's a giant, a really good scam. That's what it is.
Wow.
Well, college is an impressionable time for all of us.
Exactly. And they go after a lot of young people, which when I left, I said, I called Stacy Brooks back, who was going to help me, and I said, I'm not going to speak out, I'm not going to picket, I'm not going to make videos. I'm leaving under the radar. That's it. But Scientology kept, and she said, I'm only doing for you what I wish somebody had done for me when I left the Sea Org, which is their billion-year contract working for them. And so, I wasn't planning on doing anything against them, but they just kept picking on me, and I finally realized, wait a minute, I have free speech too, and maybe I have something to say. And that was 800 videos ago and thousands of words.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Tory, one quick question for me, because you mentioned the Sea Org, and well, no, a lot of people. It just
makes me laugh. It's so ridiculous. But go ahead. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people know that there are different, I guess, sub-factions within Scientology. The Sea Org folks are the ones who dress like they're in the Navy. I live really close to, the whole mess of Scientology in Hollywood. And there's a big building just down the street from me where it's not Sea Org, but they dress basically like disaffected flight attendants. You know what I'm talking about with like the sweater? It's not a uniform per se, but they're all dressed the same,
They're all dressed the same, yeah. Is it around Hollywood and Highland?
It's closer to it's on Fountain, but not, down by Fountain in Vermont. It's not the big building. It's like closer to a little bit west of Los Feliz. I don't want to give out where I am.
Oh, you're talking about Celebrity Center?
No. It's on Fountain, but it's closer to Hollywood than all the stuff near.
Oh, just say your address.
Okay, but what about the building though?
Well, I'm just wondering, like, if it seems like a giant dormitory for Scientology, but since there's no variation in uniform, I'm wondering if they're all like part of the same subgroup.
Yeah, no, that's Sea Org Birthing. I'm pretty sure what you're talking about is their apartment or their living places where they have, which the Sea Org is a nightmare in itself in many, many ways. But
could you elaborate on that?
Basically, it's a true slave camp that you don't know. You think you're helping people, and they cannot look. That's why I call it the Scientology Truman Show. If you haven't seen the Truman Show, watch it.
Oh, yeah.
But if you have seen it, you know what it's like, and that's exactly how it is. You cannot see the walls. They have you insulated. They have you surrounded. They cut off all your friends. They cut off all your family. So there's no way for you to get information. And let me say this before I say another word. There was no Internet when I was in Scientology. None. I mean, there was no access. Like, people today are like, how could people not know this? People talk about it all the time, like we're talking about it right now. But when I was in Scientology, there was zero access to the Internet, not any, until 2000. It started in 2000, and they had an event and said, there's an Internet, and we have to put up these websites. And that's how they put the Net Nanny on all of our computers, which the Net Nanny, for anybody who doesn't know, is a thing they put on our computers where basically you and everybody that's listening can see the good side, their pitch of what's good, and you can see all the negative stuff. You can see both. But for people that have put the Net Nanny on their computer, it locks out all facts against Scientology. All facts.
Wow.
So all they see is a piece of blue sky. It's just wonderful.
As an internet podcaster.
By the way, is the name of a book.
Oh. As an internet podcaster, that's both terrifying and intriguing.
Okay, so Tory, God, man, it's like, okay, so we'll focus on your story first, but I have so many tangential questions.
You don't have to focus on my story. Ask me the question.
Well,
I actually, my first question is, because you did get into it at a time before the internet and before all the information was so readily accessible. What was it that, finally for you, what was that last straw that made you think, wait, something's kind of hinky here?
Well, first of all, it isn't like something's kind of hinky. It's like think of the Truman Show where you're isolated, you're insulated, you're in it. But slowly over the years, this happens, that happens, and they're all things that are like, now wait a minute, that's not right, this isn't right. But you kind of have your own personal closet where you just put everything in it. I'm not going to think about that. Every cult, you can talk to anybody in a cult, and they're always in a hurry. And that's part of the cult routine, to keep you going so fast that you don't have time to stop and think and talk. And in Scientology, academics have said the two worst cults are the Moonies and Scientology. Why? Because they build in these traps. This is they telling me, but it's true. They build in traps in your head from the beginning that you cannot look or talk or listen to people that are evil or declared suppressive, which I am now. I'm declared a suppressive person.
Oh my God,
I'm totally evil. So anyone listening to this, you have to know, you have to have your filter on, because I could say something that could really, really harm you.
Yeah,
that's what they say. And you kind of believe it. You go, well, okay. And they really quickly find out your quote-unquote buttons, which all of us have, and then they start pushing them and going, look, Carl, if you want to really be free, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. And even if you say, no, I don't really want to, they already know the people that you respect, and they start bringing them around going, Carl, come on, we did it. It really helped us. And you're like, really? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll do that. And it's just next level, next level, next level. It goes from $40 up to, I think I gave them $500,000.
Oh, my Lord. So what were you doing for a living if you're trapped in this cult all the time and yet you're able to afford that much money?
Well, remember, people get this confused. They think everybody's in the Sea Org, where they make $35 a week, just so anybody knows.
Oh, that's a princely sum.
It truly is a slave camp. But the majority of people are not in the Sea Org. They're public, like I was, and you work. You have a job. Now, a lot of people work for Scientology companies, which is another scam. But that's what I did. I worked.
Okay. And so... what was, like, once you were in, okay, here's one thing I've always wondered about. I know somebody who's in it, I won't name his name, and he has tried to convince me, and I've been tempted, because he doesn't know that I did this big expose, and he's trying to convince me to go to their annual celebration, where I guess Miscavige, the head of the church, David Miscavige, like, gets everybody together to brag about what all the wins and accomplishments they had over the past year, and so... Everybody's into this, like, raw stuff, but, like, day to day, what on earth is the appeal? Especially if you're making 35 and you're living in bunks, and I hear they're eating red beans and rice. I mean, how do they not... even with this whole you're walled in thing, I just don't get... How do you not go, this sucks, I hate my life?
Go to YouTube and type in mind control, because that is absolutely what it is. They use mind control from the day, I call it the mind control train. You get on the train, you think, I'll get on it, I'm going to try it, I'll get off at the next stop, right? But once you're on it, like I said, you're surrounded by peers, they know your buttons, they start pushing them. It's like, Carl, you're not getting off, you got to go clear. And you're like, I don't really have the money for clear. And they start using your buttons against you. You said X, Y, and Z you want to get help on. This is where you can get it. They start bringing in people that are like, oh, it worked for me. Absolutely. Now, you have to understand, for 30 years, I could never really talk honestly to people about whether it worked or not, because that's against the rules in Scientology. And if you start talking against any of the tech, you're sent to ethics, and they, quote-unquote, handle you, or if you don't get handled where you're picking their side, you're declared suppressive, and they kick you out.
Okay, so then I guess I'll ask some of the random, like, big name-type questions that are popping into my head.
One thing, though, Carl, I realized I didn't answer the question about what helped me wake up,
sure.
So at some point I have to answer that.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We want to talk about your escape.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, definitely. So what happened is my best friend, you have to understand it's like a totalitarian organization. So the right hand doesn't ever know what the left hand's doing. So you could literally be in a room, and someone could be in a room right next to you, and you have no idea what they're doing. And that's how they control people. So my best friend, they knew I wouldn't do what they asked me to do if the church asked me to do it. So they got my best friend, who was my counselor, auditor, guy that helped me for years, Bill Yachty, and he said, look, there's a lot of evil people on the Internet. Now, again, people on the Internet, or anybody hearing this now, it's funny, it's stupid. You know, how could you be so dumb to believe that? But you have to remember, we knew nothing about the Internet. We had no access to it at all. People didn't have cell phones at all. You know what I mean? Now you see everybody has a phone, everybody's walking around, but that wasn't happening in the 90s. And in the 90s, he said to me, look, there's a lot of evil people on this Internet, and I'm going to handle them. We're going to handle them. And we just need you to open up an account. We think you can do it. and it's going to be an anonymous account. It's like not anonymous,
not
part
that
of,
anonymous,
quote unquote anonymous.
Right.
This was in the 90s. The Anonymous arrived in 2008 to take on the Church of Scientology. Thank God. But way before that, in the 90s, I was supposed to open up this phony account.